The rain hadn't stopped for 3 days when Drew Pritchard looked at his phone and read the message that would end his marriage. Not a fight, not a confession. Just 7 words from a woman half his age. Sent at 2:17 a.m. Screenshotted and forwarded to his wife of 20 years. By morning, the man who built an empire from other people's trash had lost everything that mattered. Salvage hunters made him famous. But fame has a way of collecting debts. And when the full truth is revealed, nothing will ever look the same. The rain hadn't stopped for 3 days when Drew Pritchard looked at his phone and read the message that would end his marriage. It was 6:14 a.m. He was sitting in his Land Rover outside a damp auction house in North Wales. The wipers were off. The engine was cold. He'd been there for 40 minutes, just staring at the screen. The message wasn't to him. It was about him. 7 words. Sent at 2:17 a.m. from a woman named Tanya to someone Drew had never met. But that someone had taken a screenshot, and that screenshot had found its way to his wife's phone before dawn. I wish you weren't married. I hate sharing you. Drew didn't deny it. He couldn't. The words were there. The timestamp was there. And the name at the top of the conversation was his own. He walked into his house on that cold February morning and found Rebecca sitting at the kitchen table. She wasn't crying. She wasn't screaming. She was just holding her phone with both hands, like it was the only thing keeping her upright. 20 years, she said. That's it. Just those 2 words. Think about that for a second. 20 years of sleeping in unheated flats. 20 years of filming his first TV pilot with her own handheld camera. 20 years of believing in a man who collected other people's forgotten things, only to discover she had become one of them. The divorce wouldn't become official for another 11 months. The public wouldn't find out for 2 years after that. The cameras would keep rolling. The show would keep airing. And Drew Pritchard would keep smiling like a man who had nothing to hide. But in that kitchen on that morning, something ended that no antique dealer could ever salvage. The message wasn't the beginning. It wasn't even the middle. It was just the moment the cameras stopped rolling. To understand how Drew Pritchard got to that kitchen table, you have to go back to a cold night in 1999, back when salvage hunters wasn't even a thought, back when his biggest worry wasn't a leaked text message. It was whether he could afford diesel for the morning. Drew was 29 years old. He worked as a church window restorer, driving across North Wales and into England, repairing stained glass in buildings nobody visited anymore. The work was precise, quiet, lonely. And then he met Rebecca. She was a textile designer, young and sharp, with hands that understood fabric the way his understood broken lead frames. They met at a pub in Conwy, called the Liverpool Arms. She ordered a gin and tonic. He spilled red wine on her coat within the first 20 minutes. She should have walked out. She didn't. Within a year, they were living together in a flat above a shop in Conwy. Specific detail. The flat had no central heating. In winter, the temperature inside dropped 8 degrees Celsius. They slept in separate sleeping bags zipped together, their breath fogging the air above them. Rebecca never complained. Not once. Drew had a van, an old Ford Transit with rust holes in the floor you could see the road through. He'd drive to France 3 times a month, buying church pews, marble fireplaces, stained glass windows from closing chapels. Rebecca would stay up until midnight, listing his finds on early auction websites, packing boxes, driving 2 hours to drop off deliveries because he was too exhausted to do it himself. This went on for 12 years. 12 years of poverty. 12 years of belief. 12 years of a woman pouring every ounce of her talent into a man who collected junk for a living. In 2011, a small production company called Quest TV came knocking. They wanted to film Drew driving around the UK, buying antiques. Simple concept. No drama. Just a man in his van. Specific detail. The pilot episode was filmed with no budget. Rebecca operated the second camera. She held the boom mic. She drove the follow vehicle. She made sandwiches for the crew because there was no craft services budget. That pilot became Salvage Hunters. It aired in November 2011. By 2013, it was airing in 22 countries. And somewhere between the first season and the fourth, Drew Pritchard started believing his own press. Rebecca filmed the first pilot episode herself. Handheld camera. No crew. She believed in him so much she became his entire production team. And that's what makes what happened next so impossible to understand. By 2015, Drew Pritchard was unrecognizable from a man in the unheated flat. Salvage Hunters was pulling in over 1.2 million viewers per episode in the UK alone. Discovery Channel had picked up international distribution. Drew's face was on billboards. His antique business had grown from one rusted van to a 3-story showroom in Conwy with a staff of 12. He was 45 years old. He was on television, and he was receiving messages from women every single day. Most of them were harmless. Love your show. You've inspired me to start collecting. My husband watches you every Tuesday. Normal fan mail, the kind any public figure expects. But one name kept appearing. Tanya, 28 years old, from Leicester, 200 miles south of Conwy. Her first message was polite. She liked his eye for restoration. She asked where he found his church pews. Drew replied. He told himself it was professional, a fan with good taste. Nothing wrong with answering a question, but the messages kept coming, and his answers kept getting longer. By the third month, Tanya wasn't asking about antiques anymore. She was asking about his day, his marriage, whether he was happy. Specific detail. Over an 18-month period, Drew and Tanya exchanged more than 1,400 text messages. That's nearly 3 per day. Every single one of them deleted from his phone within 48 hours. He never told Rebecca, not a word. He told himself it wasn't cheating because nothing physical had happened. No hotel rooms, no secret meetings, just words on a screen, just attention from someone who thought he was interesting. But here's what Drew didn't understand. Attention is a drug, and like every drug, it demands a higher dose. Tanya started sending messages at night. 11 p.m., midnight, 2 a.m. Drew would read them in bed. 3 feet from his sleeping wife, the phone screen glowing against the dark ceiling. I think about you when I wake up. I wish I could fall asleep next to you. You don't have to be unhappy, you know. And Drew, the man who built an empire on finding value in discarded things, kept responding. I want to know, did you grow up watching Salvage Hunters? Did you ever look at Drew and Rebecca and think they made it? Drop a comment right now. It takes 2 seconds. Because what happened next changed how everyone saw them. He told himself it was harmless, just attention from a fan, nothing physical. But there was one thing he never told his wife. Not then, not ever. And we found in a text exchange that was deleted 3 times. October 2016, 11 months before the divorce, 10 months before the screenshot, Drew Pritchard told his wife he was going to Birmingham for a salvage appointment. A dealer there had 3 Georgian mirror frames and a set of church candlesticks, worth about £8,000 if he'd get the price right. Rebecca packed his bag. She always packed his bag. She put in 2 clean shirts, his charging cables, and a note she'd written on a scrap of paper. Drive safe. Love you. Drew drove 3 hours south on the M6. He arrived at the St. John Hotel in Solihull at 6:47 p.m. He checked in under his own name. He paid with a joint credit card, the same card Rebecca would use the next morning to buy groceries. Specific detail. The hotel receipt shows 1 room, 1 king bed, 2 breakfasts. Checkout time, 9:14 a.m. Tanya arrived from Leicester at 7:30 p.m. She took the train. Drew had bought her ticket, £42. Also on the joint card. What happened that night has been pieced together from 3 sources. Tanya's later statements to a friend, hotel security footage obtained during the divorce proceedings, and a text exchange that Tanya thought she deleted but didn't. They ordered room service. 2 burgers, 2 glasses of red wine, a bottle of still water. The receipt shows the order was placed at 8:12 p.m. By 9 p.m., Drew's phone was off, his location sharing, which Rebecca had never asked for, but he'd voluntarily turned on years ago, went dark. By 7 a.m. the next morning, it was back on. Tanya left first. She took the 8:02 train back to Leicester. Drew checked out at 9:14 a.m., drove to the salvage appointment he'd actually booked for 10:30 a.m., bought the mirror frames, and was home by 6 p.m. Rebecca had made dinner, shepherd's pie, his favorite. She asked how the trip was. Long drive, he said, but worth it. Think about what that dinner table looked like. A woman who had slept in a freezing flat for him, who filmed his first TV pilot with a broken camera, who packed his bag and put a love note inside it, sitting across from a man who had spent the night in a king bed with someone else, paid for with their money. If this story is hitting you the way it hit me when I first found it, hit subscribe. We find the stories the world forgets, and we make sure they're never forgotten. But here's where the story turns into something most people never understood. Drew Pritchard didn't get caught because he was sloppy. He got caught because someone inside his own crew wanted him to. For months, everyone assumed Tanya was the one who sent the screenshot to Rebecca. It made sense. She was the other woman. Maybe she got angry. Maybe she wanted more than hotel rooms and train tickets paid for with someone else's credit card. Maybe she decided to burn the whole thing down. But that's not what happened. The screenshot of Tanya's message, "I wish you weren't married. I hate sharing you," didn't come from Tanya's phone. It came from a number Rebecca didn't recognize. A number that wasn't saved in her contacts. A number that belonged to someone Drew saw every single day. A production assistant on Salvage Hunters. The assistant had been watching Drew for months. Not because they were hired to spy. Not because they had a personal grudge. But because they were tired. Tired of watching him take calls in the van while Rebecca was in the back seat. Tired of seeing hotel confirmation emails on the shared production drive. Tired of pretending not to notice the way he'd disappear for hours during filming and come back smelling like someone else's perfume. Specific detail. The assistant kept a folder on their personal laptop. 47 screenshots, 12 hotel dates, 3 different women's names, and a timeline that stretched back to 2015, before Tanya, before Birmingham, before any of it. They didn't want money. They didn't want revenge. They just wanted the lying to stop. On the morning of February 14th, 2017, Valentine's Day, the assistant sent one screenshot to Rebecca. Just one. The worst one. The message at 2:17 a.m. No note. No explanation. Just an image and a phone number Rebecca could call if she wanted more. She called within the hour. What the assistant gave her over that 45-minute phone call wasn't just evidence. It was a complete map of her husband's secret life. Every hotel, every woman, every lie he'd told about where he was going and who he was with. Rebecca didn't confront Drew immediately. She waited 3 days. She gathered her own copies. She called a lawyer before she called her husband. And when she finally sat down at that kitchen table on that rainy February morning, she wasn't just holding a phone. She was holding 47 reasons to never trust him again. Most of us will never face what he faced. But we all know what it feels like to discover someone we loved wasn't who we thought they were. That's why this story refuses to leave you. The same crew who made him famous. The same people who carried his antique furniture up 3 flights of stairs in the rain. They were the ones who finally pulled the curtain back. The divorce was finalized in December 2017. 11 months after the screenshot. 20 years after they met in that pub in Conway. Rebecca walked away with £1.2 million, half of Drew's estimated net worth at the time. She kept the family home, the one she decorated room by room while he was on the road. She kept custody of their teenage son, though Drew was granted visitation every other weekend and half the school holidays. The antique business? She'd helped build it from nothing. The court agreed. She walked away with 48% of the shares. Drew kept Salvage Hunters. The show was too profitable to cancel. Discovery had already contracted 2 more seasons. Filming continued, but something shifted. If you watch the episodes from 2018 and 2019, you'll see it. The easy banter is gone. The warmth in his eyes when he used to talk about going home to Rebecca, replaced with a flat, rehearsed smile. He started wearing the same jacket in every episode. He stopped inviting the cameras into his personal life. Specific detail. In 2019, Drew moved into a rented flat above a shop in Conway. 1 bedroom, 1 bathroom, a kitchen so small he couldn't fit a dining table. The same kind of flat he and Rebecca had shared 20 years earlier, except now he was alone. He still drives to salvage yards, still buys church pews and marble fireplaces, still films his show, season after season after season. But there's no one packing his bag anymore. No one leaving love notes in his suitcase. No one filming his pilot with a broken camera, because they believe in him so much they'd do anything to make his dream come true. The last time Drew Pritchard spoke publicly about Rebecca was in a 2022 interview with The Sun. He was asked if he regretted anything. "I regret the hurt," he said, "but I don't regret the person I am." Think about that answer for a second. 20 years of her life, a flat with no heating, a van with rust holes in the floor, her hands on a camera that weighed as much as a small child, and all he could say was, "I don't regret the person I am." Some people collect antiques because they're afraid of throwing things away. Drew Pritchard collected women for the same reason. And now he sleeps in a rented flat above a shop, surrounded by furniture nobody else wanted, including the one person who actually did. And if you think this story was something, the next one we're covering will leave you completely speechless. A TV hero who didn't just lose his marriage. He lost his entire identity on live television. I'm not exaggerating.